Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today we're going to be discussing the Ottawa Senators and if they have the best young core right now in the NHL. Now, the Ottawa Senators have had a pretty decent week or so. 2 big wins versus the Montreal Canadiens and a huge win versus the Calgary Flames where they just dominated, and that young core is a big reason why. So is there a case to be made that the Ottawa Senators have the best young core in the NHL? And for the Ottawa Senators, how much success could they have in the future, and could they possibly win the Stanley Cup? Watch till the end for all my predictions, all the answers, and all my opinions, and hit that subscribe button if you're new. 70% of the people that are watching these videos are not subscribed, so subscribe for more hockey and Sens content just like this one, and help us on the road to 32K. Now, the Ottawa Senators, personally, were always a team that I thought had one of the better young cores in the NHL this year, but this year specifically is really the year that it started to actually drive some good results. Now, in the first few weeks of the season, the winning just wasn't there. It was not good whatsoever, and they were dead last in the NHL. But these past couple of weeks for the Ottawa Senators, and really since the start of February, they've been a really solid NHL team. Right now, their record stands at a 7-14-1 record with 15 points in 22 games played, and that's not the greatest. They're still one of the worst teams in the NHL by record this year, but right now in the North Division, they aren't that terrible compared to some other teams. The Vancouver Canucks, for instance, have 3 more points in 24 games played, and the Ottawa Senators have just 3 less points with 2 games in hand. So they could realistically get up to where the Vancouver Canucks are if they continue to get this winning going. But the winning's been happening because of that young core, because of those under 25 players that are just absolutely dominant right now. It's not those old guys, it's the youth that is fully coming into form for the Ottawa Senators and truly, finally, starting to win them some games. Now, it really is funny that Montreal and Toronto are like the only teams the Ottawa Senators can beat right now, but I think it is really good for them to beat those type of teams and have that type of confidence going into seasons like 2022 and 2023, where the Ottawa Senators will really try to start winning games for real. And I think that will definitely help their chemistry, help that locker room, and help their confidence in general. And the reason why they have been winning against those teams and just winning a lot more games in general recently has been that youth core. I'm just going to read off some of the young players on the roster right now for the Sens under age 25 that have had huge impacts for Ottawa so far this season. To start off, Brady Tkachuk at age 21 has been terrific this year. In 22 games played, has 8 goals, 7 assists for 15 points, and he's never really been a fantastic point scorer over these past couple of seasons. One of the main reasons why is because he's on the Ottawa Senators, but he's definitely been one of the most underrated forwards in the entire league, I would say, in terms of play driving, in terms of creating high danger chances in the offensive zone. He is one of the better offensive players, not just in the Ottawa Senators, but in the North Division, I would say, and definitely one of the better rising young wingers in the league as well. And on top of that, his rugged, physical, fun style of game. It's a style that a lot of teams would like to have on their wings, and the offense that he also has on top of that really brings a lot of value to Brady Tkachuk and the Ottawa Senators as well. You then go on to Tim Stützle, though, who at age 19 has done very solid so far offensively. In 19 games played, has 5 goals, 6 assists for 11 points. He's not my Calder trophy vote by any means, but I still think offensively he's had a very good year, especially on the power play, and especially given that opportunity that has been given so far. Defensively, I think he's been pretty terrible, but you can forgive that as a 19-year-old. That will get better. I think he'll get more to an average level, but that offense is what you want to see from him in year 1, and so far he's been bringing that at the NHL level, which I think is seriously important for the Sens. You also got young players like Bafferson, who are truly coming into the NHL for the first time full-time this year and have been making the most of it. With Bafferson in 22 games played, he has 6 goals, 7 assists for 13 points, being well above a half point per game. I think is really important for Bafferson and the Senators as well, but he's looked great with Tim Stützle as well. Those two wingers have been really solid together, and I think that youth line that they do have together that way is a good example of how the Ottawa Senators have been playing this year in terms of speed, in terms of skill. Really being able to provide that throughout their forward lines is key. You also got Josh Norris, in my opinion, one of, if not the most underrated rookies in the NHL this year. Had another great game versus the Calgary Flames. In 22 games played at age 21, he has 4 goals, 8 assists for 12 points. In terms of point totals, he hasn't been insane or anything, but in terms of driving play, in terms of great overall awareness, and being a first-line center, that's not easy by any means, but he hasn't looked out of place, and that's been very good with Brady Tkachuk, which I think is so key with him going forward, because that's a guy that you would love to have as a top 6 center. I thought would be a top 6 center, but being this comfortable this early, is still pretty surprising. And then after Josh Norris, you have some pretty big scrubs like Thomas Chabot, who is really coming into his own this season, I would say, for the Ottawa Senators. In 19 games, has 3 goals, 9 assists for 12 points. But overall, I think he's probably having the best year I've seen from him so far. And then you got guys like Colin White, who at age 24 was really interesting, but since he got back in the lineup and got an opportunity, he's been pretty solid. In 18 games played, has 4 goals, 5 assists for 9 points. And then you have another big piece of that defense right now in Erik Brannstrom, who's been called up and down over these past couple of seasons, but looks to be truly part of that Ottawa Senators future. Had that crazy in the middle goal, but so far in 8 games played, has 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points. Really looking solid in that on those offensive opportunities, really looking solid in the offensive area. The defense will still be a little bit shaky at his age, but he is still 21 years old, and as a defenseman has looked good for his age, which is basically all you can ask for a guy like him. Now, the Ottawa Senators might have the best young core in the NHL. They might also have the best prospect pool in the NHL, but even if they don't have the best prospect pool in the NHL, I think they have the most prospect depth right now in the NHL. There are so many options for the Ottawa Senators prospect-wise that could eventually play NHL games. I'm just going to list off all these players that I think will play in the NHL and be NHL players, varying in impacts, but still being contributors. Jake Sanderson, defenseman; Shane Pinto, centerman; Lassi, Thomson; Logan Brown; Alex Fermenton; Ridley Greig; Robbie Yarvanty; Vitaly Abramov; Igor Sokolov; Jacob Bernard-Docker; Tyler Clevin; Met Sugarn; Levi Merlin, and Philip Gustafson as the goaltenders. There is so many options here for the Ottawa Senators, and I didn't even list guys that I think will be great AHL players, because they got a lot of picks here that I mean could develop within their system and still be pretty solid hockey players. There's a lot of options here, though, even in terms of the high-end talent. You still got guys like Jake Sanderson, who I think could be top 4 defenseman in the league. Same thing with Shane Pinto, who I think could be a pretty solid middle 6, maybe even second-line center in the NHL if all develops right. And you got great players like Lassi, Thomson, Ridley Greig, Yarvanty as well, that I think will make solid impacts at the NHL level. There is a ton of options here, and they might not have the best top-end prospect pool, but again, that depth is absolutely fantastic and gives the Ottawa Senators some amazing options in the future with that bottom 6, with that bottom pairing in the NHL, and especially when it comes to goaltenders, they have one of the best goalie prospect pools in the NHL as it stands. Now, the big thing I think for the Ottawa Senators as well when it comes to the development of these guys is how viable the Belleville Sens have been so far. And they have been really solid in terms of development and developing guys to the NHL level. With guys like Josh Norris, who have excelled there. Same thing with guys like Drake Bafferson, who are now coming into the NHL, given the seasoning and given the time, have really started to excel. Compare that to a team like the New York Rangers, where a lot of the prospects that go through there haven't really come up to snuff. Guys like Keandre Miller, Adam Fox, that have skipped the AHL system have been a lot better for it, maybe. But having a viable AHL system that can really give players the development they need, really give them the motivation and the skills and the awareness that they need to fully get to the NHL, that I think is hugely important. You see also other teams that are in the rebuild phase, like LA Kings, really putting a lot of stock and a lot of money into that, because it really makes a difference when it comes to guys like Robbie Yarvanty, who will go through the AHL likely before they get to the NHL level and will have to test themselves there and fully develop there before they make the next stand. But the Ottawa Senators in that respect have been really good in development in terms of transition ability as well. You see guys like Josh Norris, who yes were AHL Rookie of the Years last year, but it wasn't a guarantee if he would fully get to the NHL level and be great. But he's been a first-line center, one of the best rookies out there, and consistently too. That doesn't happen by accident, and the Ottawa Senators thankfully have taken the next step to ensure the guys actually make progress. Now, in terms of the actual young core debate right now in the NHL, I think the Ottawa Senators at least are in the top 5 conversation, I would say, and especially when it comes to both NHL ready and youth prospects in their system. There's a few teams out there, though, that I think are definitely in the conversation as well that do need to be mentioned. I'll list a few off here. We got the Vancouver Canucks, who, in terms of under 25 players, are pretty loaded right now with Elias Pettersson and Brock Besser and Quinn Hughes, and in the prospect pool, you got Vin Nils Höglander, who's coming this year. You got coming in later like Jack Rathbone and guys like Vasily Podkolzin, and that's a pretty good young core right there for sure. You got other teams, though, like the New York Rangers, who, yes, have been dysfunctional this season, but still have a lot of great prospects like Kaapo Kakko and Alexis Lafreniere and Adam Fox and Keandre Miller that are big-time impact players. You got teams like the LA Kings, I would say, who, in terms of prospect pool, are in the same tier as the Ottawa Senators, if not better than them, perhaps, but they got such great quality options like Quinton Byfield, Gabriel Velarde, Alex Turcotte, that especially when it comes to that forward group, are going to absolutely lead that team. Mark Kalia, for instance, as well. On the defense, you got some solid options too, like Mikey Anderson and Cale Clegg, and some solid guys to go around there too. I would say there's a couple other teams on top of that as well. The New Jersey Devils, I think, are interesting in that debate. You got Hughes, you got Nico, you got Holtz for the future on that forward group. You got Ty Smith for the future as well. You got Mackenzie Blackwood, who's still 24 years old as well, under 25, still very solid, one of the best goaltenders out there. And I think there's a couple more that are in that debate, but those are the main ones I would say. You could maybe factor in Toronto with just Matthews and Marner and Nylander. That's still pretty fantastic, but I think that's pretty much where the discussion lies. For me, the Ottawa Senators, in terms of depth especially, I would say have a lot more than the Vancouver Canucks, in terms of other teams as well. Honestly, when it comes to prospect pool, from the teams I mentioned, I think the New York Rangers and the LA Kings come the closest to that. You have the New Jersey Devils also on top of that too. But honestly, when it comes to the Ottawa Senators, I would say, again, they have the best youth depth right now in the NHL with guys that could potentially get to the NHL level. I would say LA's up there. New Jersey's also pretty underrated in that aspect. But the Ottawa Senators, man, have done such a good job of depth drafting. They haven't at the top end done insanely well, but they've still done the job. And Stützle at 3 is perfect. Sanderson at 5 is all right. But you got other prospects that they've gotten like Josh Norris that have been big-time NHL players. They've scouted correctly. They've drafted pretty solid and have traded really well, man. I'll give Pierre Dorian some credit. Pierre Dorian some credit because he has been pretty solid over these past couple of seasons. I remember back in like 2018 where he traded Erik Karlsson and everybody was going crazy about it, but man, he has done fantastic since then. And in terms of overall free agent pickups and drafting and overall youth development, the Ottawa Senators have been pretty good. And even if they don't have the best young core in the NHL, they're up there, which compared to the situation they were at 2 years ago is pretty miraculous. And honestly, I think the 3 teams that are in the big young core debate are the Ottawa Senators, the New York Rangers, and the LA Kings. And I think the Ottawa Senators might just have the best young core out of all those teams. Now, the Rangers are the closest when it comes to top-end talent. The LA Kings will be the closest in terms of depth. But the Ottawa Senators have so many great NHL players that have been great this year as well. And that's big. That recency bias is a big-time thing. But when it comes to prospect depth, they're one of the best in the NHL. When it comes to the LA Kings specifically, when it comes to prospect pool, I think they'll be the closest. I would say the LA Kings have kind of suffered from a little bit of a lack of trade. So the Ottawa Senators have had the opportunity of trading guys like Karlsson and guys like Mark Stone that bring in fantastic prospects to their system. The LA Kings haven't really had that. They've mostly just gone off what they've already had and the draft picks they do have, and have drafted pretty well. But the Ottawa Senators have more depth because of it, and I think that's helped their prospect pool. I think it's helping their core right now. And even if they aren't the number 1, I would say they're the number 2 or the number 3 young core in the NHL right now. They're that good. You're going to see that many good prospects coming to the NHL level and be fantastic like we've already seen this year. But the Ottawa Senators have a fantastic future. We'll see if they actually do end up winning the Stanley Cup. I'm not really confident in that with Eugene Melnyk there still, but we'll see what happens. Pierre Dorian has proven me wrong a little bit. He's been fantastic. The Ottawa Senators young core has proven me wrong a little bit as well. They've been great this year, and I'm really hoping that winning continues for them, that young core continues, because the future in Ottawa looks pretty bright right now. Not gonna lie. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Comment down below your thoughts on the Ottawa Senators. Do you think they're the best young core in the NHL right now? Yes or no? And what do you think about the prospects they could have? And do you think they will eventually win the Stanley Cup? Let me know all your thoughts down below, and make sure you share this video with your friends. Get it out there, boys, and click on this card for all my hockey prospects talk right on playlist. My name is Nathan. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video or stream. Goodbye.